It was one of those nights which seemed to freeze, as in time, within this quiet town called Ashwick, whose streets lay utterly deserted and save for the cold, soft whistle of wind which rustled the leaves upon the trees. The only sound was the distant rumble of thunder from an approaching storm. In the heart of Ashwick stood an ancient mansion, which people locally referred to as Blackwood Manor. It was a house of whispers and rumours, a place few dared to venture into, and fewer still dared to leave once they had crossed its threshold. Detective Amelia Carr had always heard the stories, but she was a woman of logic and reason, not superstition. The call came in. A missing persons case was related to the manor, and she knew she would have to take a look. This wasn't just any missing person either. It was Arthur Harlow, the town's most prominent historian, and the last person known to have entered Blackwood Manor 2 days ago. Amelia Carr had a sharp mind and unyielding determination. Colleagues often characterized her as the kind of woman who followed evidence to its bitter end. Her father had been a police officer, and the same flavor of puzzle solving had trickled down to her. She didn't believe in rumors, ghosts, or strange happenings. This case just felt different. Arthur Harlow had researched Blackwood Manor's history for several months. Decades without care, the mansion was rumored to be cursed with whispers of disappearances since the day the foundations were laid. Some say it was alive. It fed from the souls of those brave, or perhaps mad, enough to try to reveal its secrets. The police had been called when Arthur stopped responding to messages from his sister. Standing at the towering gates of the manor, Amelia felt the weight of the town's expectations, that she had to find out what was really going on, no matter how dark it might be. The iron gates creaked open for Amelia, with the wind picking up with her near. Her flashlight played across weathered stone walls across the mansion face, casting long shadows in the growing gloom. The air was thick with smells of dampened wood and mold. Heavy silence hung like a shroud. Inside, the house was a lot colder than the night air. The great entrance was thick with dust, its tapestries faded and torn, hanging crookedly from the walls. Floorboards groaned beneath Amelia's boots as she traversed the sprawling hallways. There was the faint scent of old books in the air. Her eyes caught the glint of broken glass scattered on the floor. Nothing at first seemed to suggest foul play. Arthur's things were arranged in a study at the back of the house. His journal lay open on the desk, but the pages were blank. Surprisingly, there was no evidence that he had written a word about the manor, let alone any research. The only other things were a few books scattered across the floor, their titles odd and unrelated to each other. Books about ancient rituals, disappearances, and paranormal phenomena. This made Amelia suspicious. Was Arthur concealing something? Or had he found out something so frightening that he preferred not to write about it? While her eyes combed through the room, they stopped at some old keys that lay next to the journal. The keys looked like they fit the manor, but there was one odd key in the bunch, a smaller, fancier one that was cut for a door she hadn't yet encountered. Curious, Amelia tucked the key into her pocket and resumed her search. She was not alone. Whispers, echoes of long-dead voices, faint and distant, filled the house. With every turn, it seemed to her that the walls closed in, as if the manor were shifting, changing its layout in a bid to trap her inside. After an hour of searching, Amelia found a hidden door under the stairway, a room hidden from sight. The room was lined with strange symbols and had a big mirror in its center, cracked and covered in dust. It was toward this that Amelia felt the chill as she approached it. The mirror, unlike any other in the house, shimmered slightly, though the room was otherwise still. A note, jotted on a piece of paper, was taped to the edge of the mirror. "Do not look into the reflection!" But Amelia, driven by a mixture of curiosity and skepticism, couldn't resist. She peered into the mirror. All she could see at first was her own reflection, but then it seemed to be that the room behind her started to stretch. The stretched walls, and Amelia could almost hear the whisper in the air. There was nobody else inside the room. The image shifted, morphing, revealing Arthur's pale and terrified face, his lips working, with no sound escaping his mirror image. Then, in a blink of the eye, it was gone, and Amelia was left breathless. but not alone anymore. The air had cooled, and the shadow danced across the room. A figure came out of the darkness. It was Arthur, but not quite. Arthur's eyes were wide, but the man standing before her seemed different, darker, distorted, as if his body had been changed by something unnatural. His voice was a whispered echo in the room, yet somehow it felt as though it filled her mind.
"You shouldn't have come,"
he said, crackling with pain.
"This place, it changes you. It pulls you in."
Before Amelia could even react, the shadow leaped at her, vanished into thin air just as it reached her. The mirror's reflection had shown Amelia something inexplicable, and the feeling of being watched was sustained there inside her even as she tried to make logical sense of it all. Arthur was here somewhere, but his disappearance was not at all ordinary. What had happened to him? Had this manor really driven him mad, or was something far more sinister happening? The storm outside was stronger, as if the thunder was rattling at the windows. Amelia's heart started to race. This wasn't right. Every clue she'd discovered had moved her deeper into the web of secrets. The manor was no longer a house. It was alive, breathing, shifting beneath her feet. Every hallway twisted in on itself, and the rooms seemed to change when she wasn't looking. The shadows stretched across the walls with an unnaturalness that echoed through the house with creaking wood-like whispers from forgotten souls. Every corner seemed to hold a new mystery, a new puzzle to solve. Amelia couldn't help but feel the sense of urgency building inside her. Arthur's fate was tied with this place, and she couldn't let whatever had happened to him claim her too. After hours of searching, it was a secret passageway leading down into the bowels of the manor's foundation that Amelia finally stumbled upon. Thick, weighted energy thickened the air as she made her descent. There was a stone chamber at the end of the passage, and there she found Arthur, his body lifeless, but his eyes wide open in terror. Next to him was a very old book, filled with cryptic symbols upon its pages. A diary, but not from Arthur, from somebody else altogether. The book described some sort of summoning rituals regarding spirits caught in mirrors, a dark and sinister power that allowed the living to cross over into another realm. The reflection she'd seen the night before had been Arthur. He was trapped in that parallel world. She knew what to do, to break the mirror, which would cut whatever it was that tied the realms together. She made one last, decisive move and sent the glass shattering to the ground. The room fell silent. The weight in the air was lifted, and the house seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Arthur was gone, but the mystery of Blackwood Manor remained. Though Amelia had solved the mystery of Arthur's disappearance, there was still one question. How many others had the manor claimed before him? The town of Ashwick would never be the same again, and neither would Amelia. But for now, she had put an end to one more mystery, and the town could breathe a little easier until the next one.